I'm Mike Vetter. We're out here at Richardton with Anthony, my son. We're doing a recording of Brother Placid Gross. And it's April 16th, 2023. And today is Sunday, Divine Mercy Sunday, just a week after Easter. So I'll let Brother Placid introduce themselves as to who you are and so on.
Well, I'm Brother Placid Gross. I've been here at the Abbey since 1957. I made first vows in 1959, so that officially counts as for being a monk since June 1959, but I've been here since December 1957. And I came from Napoleon, North Dakota, a farm in rural Logan County.
How old were you when you came here?
I was 22.
22 years old.
I thought I'm old enough to settle down.
Good. Do you know what some of your first memories are growing up as a little boy?
Well, I've been thinking about first memories, and I don't really know exactly which would be the first one. But I remember a baby that died in our family, in the house, and I would have been 3 when that baby died. I remember that. The baby was in the coffin, and then when they took it out the house to take it to the cemetery to bury it.
Was that a sibling of yours?
A sibling, yeah.
A sibling of yours. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were 3. Well, that's a pretty good memory if you can remember back that far. How old are you today?
This year I will be 88. But I feel like 87.
That's a big difference, 1 year, you think? So good.
Well, usually I say I feel like 86, because I'm still 87 now, but
okay.
I feel like 86.
That's funny. So how many siblings were in your family? How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, there were 16 babies, but 3 babies died, so 13 grew up. So we always say there were 13 in the family.
13. How many boys and how many girls?
That grew up was 10 boys and 3 girls. And of those 13, 10 are still alive.
10 are still alive.
I have 6 siblings that are older than I, that are alive, that are older than I am now. And I'll be 88 in June, but I like to say that I have 6 siblings that are older, that are alive.
That's pretty amazing, I think.
It is amazing.
The longevity that you have. A little bit, maybe say a little bit about your parents. So what type of people they were. Your dad, was he funny? I know he played the organ in church, and then your mother is my grandpa's sister.
That's right.
So maybe a little bit about your parents, what type of people they were, their personalities.
Well, they were farmers. They were farmers from the beginning to the end.
So they worked hard. They
worked hard. Yeah, definitely worked hard. And of course, they were poor. In the early years, they were very poor. But then everybody was poor, so it didn't matter. You didn't realize that they were poor.
Okay.
Because everybody was poor.
So when you grow up, did you think you were poor, or?
No, I didn't realize that we were poor.
You just lived and you played games, and with that many brothers and sisters, you must have had some fun. What kind of games did you play when you were little?
Well, we worked more than we played. There was not much time for playing, but I remember we made mud pies in the summertime. Mixed mud with water and made different kinds of cakes. That was part of your. Well, you'd play with whatever you find, sticks of wood or old bones from dead cows, or well, another exercise game with a wheel from a wagon, from the wagon wheel, a wheel about this wide, then have a stick like a light stick, and push it. It takes skill to, so it doesn't fall over.
Oh, to keep the wheel up?
Yeah, keep the wheel going.
That's interesting.
I mean, that's, you've never seen one of them?
No.
I should show you. I have one I can show you.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So, did everybody have their role? Did you cook, or was that the women's work, or mom's work? Or
That was pretty
sister?
much women's work. The men did not cook. I mean, I washed dishes or cleaned the floor, sweep the floor. I mean, that was children's work or boys' work to help with dishes. Or Saturdays, scrub the floor. We scrubbed the kitchen, the wooden tables in the kitchen on Saturdays. We'd wash the chairs, all the wood around the bottom.
Okay.
And all.
Did
And polish the shoes. On Saturdays we polished the shoes, for Sunday.
so Sunday was a big day. Did you work Sunday?
Well, we did only the absolutely necessary chores on Sunday, the barn chores, milk and feed the pigs, feed the calves, and feed the chickens, morning and evening. But otherwise, we never did any garden work on Sundays, or we never worked in the field. Never ever worked in the field on Sundays.
So you went to Mass in the morning, usually?
Always. There was, them days they did not have Mass in the afternoon. There was never Mass after 12 at noon. That was not allowed.
Okay.
Of course, you always had a big dinner at noon. Everybody had chicken soup. It was traditional. I think everybody, our family always had chicken soup, but I think pretty much everybody did, because that was the dinner, the tradition. We called it the Sunday soup.
Sundays. Even in the summer, when it was hot outside, you had soup?
Yes, yeah. Well, when I grew up, we already had a kerosene stove. Had a kerosene stove, so Mother would put it on the stove. So it was on the stove, and we came home, and then soup was ready.
So church was a big part. Did you all sing too, participate? I know your dad played organ, didn't he?
Dad was the organist pretty much all the time that I remember. He was the organist, but not all. I don't sing. I don't sing on key. Very few of our family were in the choir. John was in the choir. John is a good singer, and Anne sang in the choir. That's the only ones of my siblings that sang in the choir.
What parish did you belong to?
St. Anthony. There was St. Anthony south of Napoleon. From Napoleon, about 12 miles south and 3 miles west.
Is that where you made your first communion and confirmation and baptism? All those?
Yes, everything happened at St. Anthony's Church. Yeah, church was about 5 miles from our place, from our farm. So, the winter time, there was many years where we couldn't drive with the car, so we went with the horses.
5 miles all the way to
5
church.
miles. Yeah, and sometimes the priest for the Balti liked to have church, so he would schedule church Sunday evening, benediction, whatever else we did, rosary or whatever, Sunday evenings. So sometimes we had to go in the mornings to church and in the evening with the horses.
Okay.
That was a little bit much.
So, do you what are some of the major world events that you remember from when you were younger?
Well, like I remember when Pearl Harbor got bombed, but I was 6 years old already, so that was not that unusual. But I do remember people talking about it, that there's war.
That was a big deal.
That was a big deal because there was war. Then after that, see, there was not many airplanes in the sky. There was not many planes. That's the planes only came after the Second World War. But when there was a plane, then we all run out of the house. We ran out of the house to look at the plane. Then we say, "Is that a chap?" It was the chaps that bombed Pearl Harbor. Then we'd say, "Is that a chap?"
Okay. But that,
See, we were not from Bismarck to Minneapolis. We were kind of in the flyway from Bismarck to Minneapolis. So there was some planes going past our farm. But it was interesting that we would all run out of the house. If we hear a plane, everybody run out to see a plane.
it was kind of something new, kind of.
It was something new.
So when you lived at home with all your siblings, what language did you speak?
Oh, we talked German.
All the time. That's your first language? Would you?
German was definitely the first language. Oh, yeah.
How long would you say it was your first language for you personally? When would you say you switched to English, or do you still think it's the first language?
When I left home, we still talked German. In grade school, we had to talk English. But as soon as we got out of the schoolyard, across the fire break around the school, we would talk German. In school, we were obligated to talk English, and we got punished. We got punished all the time for speaking German. We had to write 100 times, "I will not speak German anymore. I will not speak German anymore. I will not speak German at school."
Yeah.
That was a punishment, just about every day.
Yeah. Every day? You didn't listen then?
Well, it was.
Yeah.
Well, it was difficult to remember. But okay, I didn't realize it until somebody talked about it, that you think in German. You think in German and then translate it and then speak it in English. I remember when I was still doing that, but now I don't think in German. But it's strange how that happens. You can't explain it. You think in German, but you speak in English.
So that was it hard then a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Wasn't as natural.
It's normal. It's normal for everybody to think in your native language.
Right.
You think about it, you think, and then you speak it. But I didn't realize that I was doing it. But I remember when I stopped doing it.
Oh, really? So do you know a couple little stories, maybe some short stories or little poems, some little folklore that you could say in German and then repeat them in English so that we can understand? Because
Oh gosh.
maybe like a saying about work or about people if they're lazy, what they were considered. I know the Germans were famous for having little sayings for everything.
There was sayings for everything. Well, the only thing I could think of possibly a poem in German, a nursery rhyme. To talk in German, it's hard unless somebody else is talking to me. If I respond to somebody, it's hard. It would be hard for me to try to talk German. One nursery rhyme, one of the first ones that I learned. See, there were many nursery rhymes. In English, they had nursery rhymes too, which they don't teach nowadays in school. I don't think they teach memorization for the little kids, but it used to be you were assigned poems. Everybody, I mean, our grade school, every grade was assigned memorized poems. The little ones, the poem book was for up to 7th grade. You had to memorize long poems, which was a good thing. Was a very good thing to learn memorization. But my mother taught us nursery rhymes in German. That was probably before I went to school. One that comes to mind. Mijn moeder bakt kegelen. Sie bakte so fein. Sie stellt sie ins Kämmerle und lasst mich nicht nein. Sie gibt mir ein Brugger von den Hühner zu lugen. Komm bieb. Denn ein Brugger fress ich. Und wenn's meine Mutter noch einmal so macht, nehme ich mein Bändel und sag Gut Nacht. Gut Nacht, Spielmann, wo bleibst du so lang? Mit der großen Geige, der kleine Trombon. Gretel, wann tanzen wird, Spielmann, spiel raus.
What does that mean in English? Can you say it in English?
Well, I almost have to have the words in front of me to translate it. It's hard. I would have it on paper in my room.
Well, maybe just in general, what was it about?
My mother bakes cookies. She bakes them so fine. She gives me the crumbs to give to the chickens. Come beep, you're calling the chickens. That crumbs I will eat. And if my mother does that again, I will take my bundle, my knapsack, and say good night. Good night. Orchestra, the Spielmann, the orchestra. Where do you stay so long? Come and play. And Margaret will wants to dance. And the Spielmann plays out. The orchestra plays out. Gretel can dance.
It's more, my dad always said it's more interesting and more funny in German than in English. Doesn't sound right, he always would say.
Well, once you translate it, it doesn't come out the same. But the old people now laugh if they hear German, I think not because it's funny, but because it's something they have not heard for a long time. You hear the old language and then it just sounds funny to hear it. I mean, that's one reason why people laugh.
Oh. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about, if you want to talk about becoming a monk and your vocation story. You said you were 22. Well, how did you decide to become a monk, or did your parents tell you to come here, or you researched it? So just a little bit about how that all went.
Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to explain that. You know, I've never. I mean, many people ask, and I really have a very hard time explaining it. But our pastor always prayed for vocations. Vocations would be like a priest, sister, brother. I mean, we prayed every Sunday. The parish prayed for that, and I think that by the grace of God, because I didn't know what a monk was. I had never seen a monk, and nobody ever talked about it either, because we didn't. That was not known. I mean, the priests were known and sisters were known, but brothers were not known. So it's just by the grace of God.
Yeah.
Okay, a monk. Let's talk a little bit about a monk. A monk is everybody that belongs here, everybody that lives here, or that belongs to this place is a monk. some are priests and some are brothers. Some are ordained. The ones that are ordained, that's the priest. The brothers are not ordained, so the brothers do not say Mass. And then there's a difference. The diocesan priests, I mean, the ones that belong here, they belong here. They're under the abbot. The diocesan priests belong to the bishop. The bishop is their boss. That's called a secular, where order priests belong. The priests here belong to an order, the Benedictine order, and the other ones, the priests of diocese, are the secular. So just about everybody asks that question, and then I explain it, and then they still don't know.
Yeah.
And you can't really blame them. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, people just don't understand. But anyhow, the ones that belong here do not belong to the diocese. They're not under the bishop.
Okay.
We are under the bishop as far as certain things goes. Let's say if the bishop says we can't eat meat on Friday, I mean, that includes us also.
Okay.
But the bishop cannot tell us when we have to get up in the morning, or when we go to bed, or when we're going to eat. I mean, that's not under the bishop. That would be under the abbot here.
Okay. So did you just drive out here one day? All by yourself, or did you call on the phone and said, "Can I come out and look around"? How did that go?
That's a good question, but I didn't know what a monastery was, really. See, my brother went to school here. Pius went to high school here. And then I came along. When Dad came to get Pius for a Thanksgiving vacation, I came along. And then I got a tour of the Abbey. I didn't really meet anybody. I just saw the Abbey a little bit. It was just for like 1 hour. Then I went home, and then on December 1st, I came with a suitcase. I packed up and came here and moved in. Well, nowadays, so many guys visit here, visit like 10 different times, stay for 2 weeks, and they visit other monasteries in the whole United States. They go to every monastery, check out every monastery, and then in the end, they don't know what they want to do. They can't settle down. People can't make a decision. People can't make a decision what they want to do.
So you decided, and that was it?
That was it. Yeah.
Never looked back?
No.
Do you think that was partly how you were raised, making a decision, or you just thought, I've had enough of the farming here and living at home, I'm going to do something on my own, I'm going to do my own thing?
I guess that'd be part of it. You could say that. Yeah. Well, let's see. I had enough of farming. That's true, and I was going to do my thing. And I thought that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did.
So when you told your mom and dad, who'd you tell first, your mom or your dad?
Well, I told the priest, and then the priest told my folks.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't believe it. But they thought, well, he's not going to stay anyhow.
So you told the priest that's what you're going to do? You fit everything you needed in your one suitcase?
I had one suitcase and one box. And I carried everything upstairs in one trip. Everything I brought, I carried upstairs, all the way up, 3rd floor, about 40 steps.
With one trip?
In one trip, right.
So could you carry it all down with one trip?
No, it would take about 500 trips.
Yeah.
Needed a lot of help. I mean, there was no elevator in the monastery at that time. Now we have an elevator.
Oh, you do have an elevator.
Yeah, we do now.
So were they supportive, your parents?
Yes,
Always were supportive?
I think so. Yeah.
How many times did they visit when you first came? Every day, every week?
Well, not very often. I think it was 1 month the first time. I think it was 1 month, but then it was like once a year, probably.
Did you write a lot?
Where we were limited of how much we can write, and we're limited how much company we can have, how much the family can come. I don't see that it was a problem because they didn't want to come anyhow, but there would have been a problem if they did come like every week. They would not have been allowed to come every week. And we're writing.
You hear that now when the kids go to college. They said some of their parents just about want to live with them there. They just don't let them go.
Yeah. With the letters, Father Raymond would read the letters that I wrote. He didn't read all of them, but he was allowed to. I had to hand them in unsealed, and he could read them if he wanted to.
Okay.
I really didn't care. It really didn't matter if it didn't matter if he read them or not read them.
Right. So a little bit about when was the Abbey started? And then what's the purpose of an Abbey?
Well, the Abbey started here in 1899. The monks came from Switzerland to Indiana. They started a monastery in Indiana, and then they sent missionaries to North Dakota to work on the Indian reservation. The first ones that came worked on the Indian reservation at Fort Yates and at Devil's Lake. And then the one that was in charge for the Vincent Worley, he got the idea once to start a monastery because there was so much work to do. There were so many people. There was no priests. It was not a diocese, so the bishop did not send any diocesan priests. So the Benedictines were the missionaries. Then he asked the priest at Devil's Lake, the boss asked for more priests from Indiana and from Switzerland. He went to Switzerland and begged for people to come. Then started a monastery at Devil's Lake. And then they would travel by a railroad to wherever there was people. Wherever there was some Catholics, they would travel by railroad. That was before there was cars. There was horses, but the train was already here. And the main train went through here from Fargo to Jamestown to Bismarck to Dickinson. The main rail line goes right through here. So they traveled here. From Devil's Lake, they had to take a train to Fargo and then switch trains and come over here. And there was many Germans in the south of North Dakota and Catholics, so they decided to start a monastery here. First, they were planning to start a monastery like in Napoleon or Linton. That was the first plan because there was many Catholics there, many Germans where we come from, and many Catholics. But then this area, there's also many Germans and many Catholics. So then they got land here. There was land available here at Richardton. So they bought some land, and then they moved here in 1899. They were at Devil's Lake from 1893. Then 1899, they moved to Richardton. Then they started building here, and they started a school right away. They started a school. It was, I don't know if it was officially a high school or grade school or whether they had organized classes, I'm not sure. But they started a school right away.
So what do you think would be, what would you like outsiders to know about the Abbey, about life here and What's the purpose? Just to be here and just sit so you don't have to work, or?
Well, you actually have to work a lot. You got to go to church a lot too. But well, the purpose that time was for the school to have a Catholic school. But now we closed the school already quite a few years ago because there's not enough money for a private school. So while we pray, I think our main apostolate is to pray and do whatever work can be done. Right now, we don't do a lot of outside work. I mean, but brothers have worked here, lived here, and worked in the local nursing home or in the local hospital, or teach school in Dickinson, something like that. So, I mean, there is work, anybody that is able to work. Well, our main work now is just to pray and to keep up the buildings, to keep up.
So do people send you prayer requests? Do you get requests from all over the country or world and ask for prayer?
Yes, we do get a lot of prayer requests. We do.
For all kinds of things.
And of course, we're self-supporting. We have to support ourselves. We don't get any help from the bishop or from the pope. We don't get any money from the bishop or from the pope. So we have to earn our own way. So we are getting a lot of contributions. There's people that are sending money, quite a bit, which is actually a big part of the income.
Good. Well, good. You did great. So I think if you're okay with that, maybe we can do a short little walking tour a little bit. You can show us around if you got a minute or two left, or what do you got? Are we okay for time?
Yeah, I have a lot to show you.